Good day, good morning, good evening. We are very happy to have you with us today on the 7th of September and another iteration of Minamata Online. This is our second season and it's the first in a set of sessions specifically prepared to assist parties on full national reports. My name is Claudia ten Hafe, and today I am joined by two colleagues to guide you through what, as I mentioned, is the first of a number of sessions we have prepared on national reporting. Firstly, by Richard Guterres, who joined the Secretariat as the National Reporting Officer, and then also by Ana Garcia, who is our Communications and Knowledge Management Officer. And the three of us will today guide you through a number of items in preparation of national reports. I also just want to acknowledge that behind the scenes we have a number of other colleagues making this happen, so my thanks to them as well. But let's begin by giving you a short overview. So Shariful, if I could have the next slide, please. I don't think the slide is coming. And just to check, you can hear me, or is there a sound problem? Okay. I trust everybody can hear me. Shariful, if I could have the next slide, please. Perfect. Here we go. This is the overview of what we're going to be taking you through today. Firstly, I will be giving you an overview of Article 21 and the reporting obligations of all our parties. Then Richard will take you through a review of the first short reports that were already submitted to the Secretariat and will be presented to the COP later on this year. The first short reports were on 3 specific questions, so his presentation will include some insights from those 3 questions. Thereafter, Anna will take us to an introduction of the online reporting tool, and then we are ready and happy to have all of your questions, and hopefully we can provide you with some guidance and answers in this regard. So let me begin on the first part, which is to go to the next slide, please. As I mentioned, I would like to speak to you about the overall reporting obligation. You may have been part of our Minamata Online session that we had last year, where we went into the reporting obligation in detail, and so you may want to check that again, and also how it relates to the work of the Compliance, Implementation and Compliance Committee. But here just to highlight that according to Article 21, every party shall report to the Conference of the Parties through the Secretariat on the measures taken to implement the provisions of the Convention, and also to provide information on the effectiveness of such measures and the possible challenges in meeting the objectives of the Convention. Next slide, please. Following the Convention text at COP1, the Conference of the Parties deliberated on and then decided on, in Decision 1.8, the timing and format for reporting by parties. And in this reporting format, which is we call the full reporting format, it was decided that parties shall report every 4 years on the full reporting format and every 2 years on 4 of the questions in this full reporting format. And these 4 questions are marked by an asterisk. It also, at the time, encouraged all parties to provide an electronic version of its report. This is both to help the party, of course, to keep track of the reports it gives, but it's also very important for us as Secretariat to receive your input in electronic version so that we can collate it, and for the Implementation and Compliance Committee and for the COP and for all the other purposes and needs of the national reporting. And the decision also requested the Secretariat to make the electronic versions available of previous reports. And so, of course, we have all the parties that have submitted their first reports in December 2019. We have those in electronic version. And so just to sum up, the decision called for the first short reports to be done by the 31st of December 2019. And then for the first full national reports, that is all the questions in the format, to be done by 31st December 21. And that is upcoming. Next slide, please. The full reporting format consists of 43 questions, and these are the 43 questions that are to be answered every 4 years. All of the questions begin with a yes and a no, or sometimes another form of answer, but then some of the questions are multi-tiered. So it is a sizable set of questions that would need to be answered. As a quick overview, the full format consists of 5 parts. We refer always to the questions because, of course, that is the body of the report, but it's important to highlight that it has 5 parts, the overall format. Part A is simply information about the party. Part B contains these 43 questions, but I would like to highlight also the importance of Part C, D, and E. C provides an opportunity for parties to comment on possible challenges they may face in meeting the objective of the convention. D provides the opportunity for parties to comment on the reporting format and possible improvements. And section E, or part E, provides an opportunity to add comments of each article in free text if the party chooses to do so. Next slide, please. This is just an overview of the articles that are being covered by the 42 questions. We will not go into detail of these articles or the 42 questions today, 43, I beg your pardon, questions today. We will be doing that in the 2 parts coming up next week, where we will look at the first couple of articles first and then the remainder of the articles. But just for you to have the full overview of which articles in the convention are being reported on according to the 43 questions. Next slide. I would also like to point out that at the third COP, at COP3, another decision was passed by the parties, the Conference of the Parties, namely 313, which called for the guidance for completing the national reporting format. In recognizing, at this time, the Conference of the Parties recognized the need for complete and consistent national reporting, both for reporting purposes, but also for the purposes of the effectiveness evaluation and to support overall implementation and compliance. And it was against that background that the Secretariat was requested to prepare such draft guidance on the full reporting format with the purpose of clarifying the information that is being sought. In the same decision, the Conference of Parties also encouraged parties to use this draft guidance on a provisional basis to prepare their full national reports that are due at the end of the year. This draft reporting guidance is being submitted to COP4 and will be available as document 17. But just for you to know immediately now, this draft guidance consists more or less of 3 sections. The first section outlines the overall reporting obligations, gives you more detail on what I'm outlining here now. The second section gives you an overview of how the draft guidance has been put together so that you can find your way easily around what is quite a sizable document. And section 3 is really the meat of the draft guidance because it goes by article and question by question to give you some notes on that question and also to propose a suggested approach on how to complete the information that is requested. I would like to point out that this draft guidance is not a manual for implementation. It is simply a guide to parties to collect and collate the information that they would need to be able to fill out all the parts, not just the 43 questions, but also parts A all the way to E. Next, please. And this is just a short screenshot to give you an idea what it looks like. In a gray box, you will see the actual question as it was approved by the Conference of the Parties at its first meeting. This is just the very first question, which is 3.1 on whether a party has primary mercury mines operating in their territory. And as you can see, right under such a box will be first notes from the Secretariat on this topic, and then a suggested approach for responses. And here, of course, it really depends whether you as party would be answering yes or no to then be guided to the next part of the multi-tiered question. Next, please. So just to make one important stop within the guidance, you will see in the guidance is clarified what the reporting period would be. The Conference of the Party decided that each party shall submit the first reports, as I mentioned, by the 31st of December 2019. And therefore, it is noted in the reporting guidance that for the first short reports, the reporting period covers 16 August 2017, which is the date of entry into force of this convention, until 31st December 2019. And therefore, as we are speaking about the full reports, in other words, the full reports over 4 years, the reporting period for these first full reports would be 16th August 2017 until December of this year, 31st of December 2021. It is then anticipated that the cycle will repeat itself in such a way so that every 2 years there would be information on the 4 questions with asterisks, and every 4 years there would be information coming forward on all of the questions in the reporting format. Next. And just also to highlight that this is part of the original instructions of the decision, of the decision 1.8 in terms of Part B. All of the questions in Part B are considered mandatory, except the limited number that are labeled supplementary or supplemental. And I would just like to highlight here that it was remarked by the COP that these questions provide additional information that would facilitate the evaluation of the effectiveness of the convention. And responses to these questions, though, are voluntary to be added at the party's discretion, but parties are strongly encouraged to complete these where they have the relevant information. And this is direct text from the COP approved explanation or instruction on supplemental questions. I would also just like to point out that another part in that instruction is that descriptions of the effectiveness of the implementing measures should be provided based on a party's particular situation and capabilities, but they should be nonetheless consistent as far as possible in the report of that party. And just to highlight, and we will go deeper into the online reporting tool in a moment, but in the reporting tool, you will need to make some entry for all mandatory questions. Otherwise, the report will continue to be considered incomplete and you will not be able to complete the submittal of the report. However, supplemental questions, it is at your discretion to put the information in, having said that, of course, the Conference of the Party had very much encouraged that such information be provided. And with that, we go to the next slide. And I would like to hand over to Richard to take us through this section. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Good afternoon, good day, good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure for me to present. Thank you very much for joining. Quite timely to talk about our first short national reports. Because in order to move forward, in order to move forward to our full national reports, which are due December 31, 2021, it'll be good for us to understand and review what has been the process and what has been the responses and insights that the Secretariat gained and gleaned from our first national report. Um, okay, Shariful, can you move me to the next slide, please? Thank you. So in this slide, you will see an overview of our of the reporting performance of the parties in submitting their first short national reports. Um, of the 114 parties to the convention, that were a party during the first reporting period, which ended in December 31, 2019, 63 parties submitted their complete reports by the deadline. An additional 39 parties submitted their reports by June 30th of 2021. Therefore, this gives us 102 parties that have submitted their reports out of the 114 parties, which resulted in an 89% reporting rate. Now, to your right, you will see a graph showing the breakdown by region. And let me quickly go over that with you. For the African states, we have 28 of 31 parties, which resulted in 90% reporting rate. For the Asia Pacific region, 20 of the 26 parties submitted on time, which resulted in a 77% reporting rate. For the Central Eastern European states, all 13 parties from that region submitted. So you have 100% reporting rate. For the Latin American and the Caribbean states, we have a 91% rating. 21 of the 23 parties in the region submitted their report on time. And lastly, from the Western European and other states, 20 of the 21 parties, 20 of the 21 parties from Western Europe submitted, and we gained a 95% reporting rate performance. Just wanted to make sure that everyone is hearing me well, or there might be some issues that I'm seeing.
I can hear you, Richard, but you do break up. So let's go a little bit longer. If there is a bigger problem, then I'll step in. But do try to continue, please.
All right. Thanks so much, Claudia. And my apologies to everyone if the signal is breaking up. Shariful, next slide, please. Okay. And this slide, you'll just see a representation of what I discussed earlier. So 63 parties submitted as of the December 31st deadline, and 39 parties submitted by the June 30th deadline. So the big space in blue represents the mass of 63 parties. The space in gold, the additional parties that submitted after the deadline. I will call your attention to the lower right quadrant of the diagram. The Secretariat is still to receive 8 reports from parties. 4 parties submitted incomplete reports. And we're happy to note that 2 parties submitted ahead of time voluntarily their reports before becoming a full-fledged party to the convention. Shariful, next slide, please. Right. On this slide, I provide you with an overview of the 4 questions that were addressed, that were covered under the short national reports. I will not read through them, but I will do so in the succeeding slides. So the intention here is just to refresh your, as a refresher, for those who have, especially for the national focal points in attendance, of what the questions are, which are Article 3, Mercury supply sources and trade. Actually, there are 3 questions coming from Article 3. The other one is Article 3, Mercury supply sources and trade, question 3A. So one is on primary mines, the other one is on supply and sources. The other the other Article 3 question is on trade, on the consent receiving consent, and then lastly on Mercury waste. As I said, we'll be going into more detail into the questions in the succeeding slides. Shariful, if you can please take me to the next slide, please. All right, excellent. So the first question that in the short national report is question 3.1. Does the party have any primary mercury mines that were operating within its territory at the date of entry into force of the convention? And if it has, the party is requested to provide a total amount mined, which is in metric tons per year. So from the responses received and submitted to the Secretariat, we've noted that 2 parties responded yes, that they had primary mercury mines that were operating within their territory at the date of entry into force of the convention for them. And 100 parties replied no, that they did not have primary mercury mines that were operating within their territory at the date of entry into force of the convention for them. Note that a key insight that we would like to share with you, not just on the short national report, but also as you complete your full national reports, is the need for a consistency in the units of measure. Next slide, please. So the need for consistency of units of measure when you provide the response to the report in the reporting tool. So please take note that the total amount mined per year of the reporting period is what is being sought. So it needs so the unit of measure is in metric tons of mercury metal produced by primary mining, rather than the total amount of mercury containing ore that was excavated. So this insight has been included in the revised draft guidance on national reporting, which will be presented at the COP and which all of you at the upcoming COP, and which will be available for everyone to see. Next slide, please. So the next question in the short national report refers to whether the party has endeavored to identify individual stocks of mercury or mercury compounds exceeding 50 metric tons and sources of mercury supply generating stocks exceeding 10 metric tons per year that are located within its territory. As you will note, the question poses whether there's a yes, that the party has endeavored, or no, the party has not endeavored. If the party has endeavored, the party will answer yes to question 3.3 above, and 2 things are required. One is to attach the results of the endeavor or indicate where it is available. And as a supplemental information, the party is requested to provide any related information to the Secretariat, for example, the use of disposal of mercury from such stocks or sources. Next slide, please. So in the next slide, you will see a graphical representation of the responses we received. 57 parties responded no, that they did not endeavor to identify stocks or sources. 45 parties answered yes. Now, of the 45 parties who answered yes, 32 parties attached or indicated the results of their endeavors. And these are the parties, and this is represented in the big block of the blue-green block. 8 parties provided the Secretariat with other sources of other information regarding their endeavor. And 5 parties did not submit an attachment, nor did they indicate a link where the Secretariat could verify or find out the additional information related to their endeavor. So this represents the responses that the Secretariat received on this question. Next slide, please. Now, the Secretariat is conscious that 57 parties did not answer no, which meant that they did not endeavor to identify individual sources, stocks or sources of mercury. And in this regard, we would just want to remind participants in attendance and also the national focal points that there is an existing guidance that's been developed for this particular topic. The guidance on the identification of individual stocks of mercury or mercury compounds exceeding 50 metric tons and sources of mercury supply generating stocks exceeding 10 metric tons is available online. And you can find it on our website, on our new and improved website. And the link is in this, the presentation, which will be, I believe will be shared to everyone. So you can refer to this guidance in order to help you in completing, especially for the full, for the upcoming full national report that's due on December 31st. Next slide, please. So the next slide that you will see brings us to question 3.5. This is the question which asks the party whether the parties received consent or relied on a general notification of consent in accordance with Article 3, including any required certification from importing non-parties for all exports of mercury from the party's territory in the reporting period, in the reporting period. Could you go back to that one slide, please, Shariful? Thanks. So you will note in that question, so the question is pretty unique because you have three options. While Shariful is going back to the previous slide, let me just provide you an overview. Thanks, Shariful. So as I mentioned, it has three options for the national focal points to fill out. There's an option yes, where you export to parties, another yes, where you export to non-parties, and no. And then if you answered yes, the party, the party has submitted copies of the consent forms to the Secretariat, then no further information is needed. Now, if the party has not previously provided such copies, the trade consent forms, it is recommended that it do so. Otherwise, the reporting tool prompts the national focal point to please provide other suitable information showing that the relevant requirements of paragraph 6 of Article 3 have been met. And then following that, a supplemental information is also requested to please provide information on the use of the exported mercury. Now, then you will note there's a specific question in 3.5b that if exports were based on a general notification in accordance with Article 3, paragraph 7, the national focal point is being requested to indicate, if available, the total amount of exported mercury or mercury compounds and any relevant terms or conditions in the general notifications related to use. So next slide, please. So the next slide, as you will note, is a representation of the responses that the Secretariat received under question 3.5. So in the gold bar, the horizontal gold bar, 88 parties responded no. And of the 114 parties, 8 parties responded yes, that they have exported mercury or mercury compounds. Of the 8 parties, 7 parties responded that they exported to parties, and 5 of the 8 also responded that they exported to non-parties. Next slide, please. Now, the Secretariat would like to note, and this is one of the insights that you will again be seeing in the COP document 4/16, and this is quoted directly from that it has to be noted that none of the 8 parties that responded yes to export to parties and or yes export to non-parties, that they had received consent or relied on a general notification of consent for exports from their territory. Now, none of these 8 parties had sent copies of the consent forms to the Secretariat as recommended by the Conference of Parties in Decision MC 1/2. Now, it was only at the time of national reporting when the reporting format prompted parties to forward the Secretariat copies of the forms by which they had received consent, if they had not already done so. But one party forwarded copies of Form A and another party forwarded a copy of Form B to the Secretariat. So the trade consent forms are essential, and we can discuss that in a bit. Now, the next slide, please, Shariful. So, so some of the national focal points, again, in looking forward in completing the full national report, kindly see we have prepared, or there are related forms available on Article 3 on the Minamata Convention website. We also would like to take note at this stage that the form referred to in question 3.5A and B are the forms adopted by the Conference of Parties at its 4th meeting, and that may be used by the parties and non-parties for providing consent for trade in Mercury under Article 3. So these forms are as follows. Form A, which is the form for the provisions of written consent by a party to the import of Mercury. And then there is Form B. It's the form for the provision of written consent by a non-party to the import of Mercury. And then there's Form D. It's the form for the general consent to import Mercury. So next slide, please, Shariful. Now we go on to the 4th and last question for the short national report, which is on mercury waste. So question 11.2 of the reporting tool asks, are there facilities or final disposal of waste consisting of mercury or mercury compounds in the party's territory? So the options are yes, no, or do not know. If the answer is do not know, you are the responder is prompted to please explain. If yes, if the information is available, it is important to note that the reporting tool asks how much waste consisting of mercury or mercury compounds has been subjected to final disposal under the reporting period, and to please specify the method of the final disposal operation or operations. Next slide, please, Shariful. So thank you. So this slide gives you a representation of the responses that the Secretariat received. 20 parties responded yes, that they have facilities for the final disposal of mercury wastes. And 75 parties responded no, that they do not have final disposal facilities. And then 2 parties responded that they do not know. Next slide, please. So for the purposes of supporting the parties in understanding their obligation, and also on this particular issue, the guidance there's the first item here is explains that pending adoption of an annex, parties can report on facilities that are using the techniques outlined in the Basel Convention technical guidelines on the environmentally sound management of wastes consisting of, containing, or contaminated with mercury or mercury compounds. So this is available at the convention website. So I urge national focal points present to take a look at this guidance to further help understand what the parameters of the reporting requirement. In addition, information on facilities for final disposal of mercury or mercury compounds can also be found in reporting under national laws governing hazardous waste management and hazardous substances. And also it can be found from the development of the Minamata initial assessments. Or it can also be found in the implementation plan developed pursuant to Article 20 of the Convention. So a key point here is to note that the question seeks to identify facilities. And then you will also find this particular insight you will find in the upcoming COP document for the /16. Next slide, Shariful. Now, in addition to the 4 questions, parties are also given the opportunities in the reporting format to provide their responses on Part C, on what they think are challenges in implementing the convention. So 50 parties provided their responses. Part D of the questionnaire provides an opportunity for the parties to share their insights on the reporting tool. And then Part E allows the parties to provide in free text comments on any of the 4 questions that has been posed. In that regard, 24 parties use that opportunity, as well as for Part D. So thank you very much for your inputs. Next slide, please, Shariful. So what are the key insights, the additional insights that we've seen through the first short national reports? So the 89% reporting rate is quite encouraging. It's a robust number. So we hope, the Secretariat hopes, that this is something that that the parties will build on as they proceed to complete their full national reports. The Secretariat also notes that the parties have been actively engaged in the reporting period. As I've noted in my earlier presentation, 2 parties submitted voluntarily their national reports, even before becoming a party, as well as the rate of inputs that we receive, as you have just seen in Part C, D, and E. So this to us is a clear barometer that parties are engaged, and the inputs are very much welcome, and we hope that can continue and be utilized well in the upcoming full national report. And then another insight that we gleaned from the short national report is that the positive feedback on the online reporting tool, and we've put all of these positive feedbacks as well as the improvements into the new online reporting tool that my colleague will soon give you a preview on. Next slide, please, Shariful. All right, so I guess that was the last one. So as I mentioned, I'll turn the floor over to my colleague, Ana Garcia Sanz, to introduce the online reporting tool. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Richard. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Now it is time to get ready for the fully fledged online reporting tool the Secretariat has prepared for completing your national reports. Before we go into its features and how you will work on it, let us play a kickoff video. Please, Shariful, can you put the video on? Thank you, Shariful. Well, the video had some background music, but you will be able to listen to it from our website or on our YouTube channel. If Shariful, you can go back to the presentation, please, and move to the next slide on the flow chart. Thanks. Well, while the presentation is going on the screen, today I will speak a little bit about the online system and the main steps your party will go through in preparing national reports. As mentioned, today there's the kickoff, the announcement. Then the second step is you will be able to log into the system. Third step is that you will work on your report. The fourth one is you will complete and submit it. Then the Secretariat will review the report, and finally the report will be considered final and we will publish it on the website. I will go one by one. Shariful, let me know if you need me to share the screen to follow with the presentation. Okay, next slide, please. Well, as I was mentioning, today we are announcing and launching the new reporting cycle, the full one, with a fully fledged tool that is completely integrated into the new Minamata website. This launching involves the current Minamata Online event, that one, and an email that the Secretariat will send you today with a dedicated username and password addressed to Minamata focal points. Each focal point will receive a unique account with a safe password to access the platform and a guide on how to use it. Next one, please. This is the login, the next steps, which is quite obvious. You will be able to log into the platform, consult the draft reporting guidance, and start your report. If you need any assistance, the Secretariat will be able to help you, no matter if it's a technical issue or a substantive aspect. Next one. Once you have started your report, you can switch languages if needed. You can fill in all the parts and all the questions as per instruction, consult the draft guidance as you go through the different parts of the reporting format and the questions, save the report while you work on it, and definitely before you log out, you will be able to log out, log in to return and keep working on the report. And you can also check your 2019 national report. Next one, please. Here you can see some screenshots of language and saving options, and you will be able to see more detailed instructions when we shared with you the username and the password with link to the user guide. Next one, please. Information on the party will be pre-populated, including the name of your party, dates, instrument deposited, and entry into force, and information on the national focal point. During the report, during part B, with the questions, you will find other pre-populated questions which are linked to the notifications that you have already sent to the Secretariat. Next one. When progressing on the report, you will see also like a completion status on the right sidebar, links to the convention text and the reporting guidance that can help you and guide you during the process and the different article responses. And then if you move, Lynn, please, to the next slide, which is the same question, you will see that 3.1 as a sample. You can see that there's a logic automation depending on your response. So you will see that the screen displays different options according to your response. So it's based on a logic architecture. Next one, please. Before submitting the report, please review your responses. You can go back and forth all the time. You can also, and you are encouraged to review your responses at the previous screen stage just before submitting them, and click submit by the 31st December 2021, and you will receive an acknowledged email from the Secretariat. Next one, please. Then the Secretariat will review all reports to check for completeness, including any missing information or attachments, or if some responses need clarification. Next one. And once the report is considered final by both sides, it will be published on the website, and you will find it available from the platform as well. A confirmation email will be sent to the national focal points. I will hand it over now to Claudia, that will provide you with more information on the upcoming events and how the Secretariat is supporting parties with the national reports. I hope you find the reporting tool useful. Thank you very much, and over to you, Claudia.
Thank you very much, Anna. So Lynn, I believe if you could take me to the next slide, 2 short slides, lessons learned that we would like to just bring to your attention, given the experience of the first short national reports. And this text is actually also all exactly the same as in the draft reporting guidance. So you will find all of this wording again in that reporting guidance. Firstly, it is very important to plan ahead and to look what information will be required, because while many or all of them are yes and no type of answers, many of them also include attachment opportunities or links that need to be added. So please have in mind that these questions may very often also include additional information that would need to be submitted. And then 4 sort of pragmatic comments we would like to make is, the first one is in terms of annual data, to specify the year of the data. And if the data is not 1st of January to 31st of December, to specify the period for which the data is valid. And there will be a place certainly in the comment section if you need to provide such extra comment. It is also, our second point here, very important to encourage very succinct answers, and we've had very good experience on that actually in the first reports, and we would now look forward also in the full reports that even that they are succinct, that they do convey a meaningful story, that one understands the perspective of the party behind the responses. On this one, just to say that in terms of reports or other attachments being attached as additional information, or as the information is being requested, we would very much hope that you could highlight or extract the information that you wish to submit, and not only submit an MIA or anything like that. These are extremely lengthy reports, and they may not be so easy to digest in terms of what the party would like the Secretariat to take out as the part that is relevant for that question. And the last 2 points is just to check for consistency between the different questions and to take notes of the unit. And then one last slide, which is just, and I see it already popping up in the chat, and that is that there is some not sufficient clarity in some ways in the decision 1.8 on the reporting period, and versus when the party is due to submit the report. And so the draft reporting guidelines make it clear that or put forward that the reporting period is from the 1st of January, or in this particular case, from August until 31st of December 2021. But in that document that will go to the COP, and it is for the COP to decide, of course, there is the suggestion from the Secretariat that it may be necessary to add additional days after the conclusion of the reporting period, so that the future reports would be submitted actually 90 days after the 31st December deadline. We offer this as a way to go through this one part of unclarity in the decision. And it is also offered as one way to ensure that all the data that is required to come forward, also for other processes such as effectiveness evaluation, can be put forward. And then just next slide very quickly, because we would like to hear from you as well. Of course, this is the first of 4 sessions, so we hope you could join us on the others as well. Next week, we will go into the other questions. We've done 4 questions today, but there are a number more that to go through next week. And then we would like to offer on the 22nd of November, which is 40 days until the deadline, free check-in on any other questions or any other queries that you may have. And that particular session is done in 2 time zones to be able to accommodate as many national focal points as possible. And I think I leave it here, except that on our next slide, and all the slides will be made available, we also have the links to the draft reporting guidance and the links, of course, to all the other COP approved guidance. So the next slide will show that. Lynn, if you could. Oh yeah, this is the most important thing though to remember, which is that the 31st of December is that deadline. And then I think the next slide would have been the guidances. Yes, and all of this is hyperlinked and will be available for your use. And just to say that basically by the end of the day, all national focal points, and we have 133 national focal points, all national focal points will be receiving their email with the login credentials, and they can start beginning to explore the online reporting tool and all of the elements around it. But we as Secretariat stand ready to help technically, or if there's a substantive element that we can point you to in the guidance to assist you in completing the reporting guidance. I now do see that we have 9 minutes left, and I was scanning the chat, and I did note, of course, that there was this concern about reporting data in an ongoing year. We hope that the COP may consider this proposal of extending it by 90 days, but we at present do not know that that will happen. But this is all in the COP documentation. And just for your overall information, all COP documents will become available as from next week for your preparation for COP4. I don't see another question unless I'm missing something. Would there be any other question that you may have? And just to note, by the end of today, our website will, in other words, have this presentation, and it will also have our little video with the music that Anna so tastefully chose for it, that might accompany you if you need to go back to any particular part. And then, of course, the national focal points, please reach out to us. Please let us know if something is missing. And one very, very important plea is that if your national focal point has changed, we need to be notified as soon as possible, so that we can reissue the login credentials for the national focal point. And here I just want to make one comment that it is indeed a function of the national focal point that the report is submitted by the national focal point or through the national focal point. And so it's really important that that notification reaches us if the person may have had a promotion or have gone to another duty, that we have the updated list. If you're unsure who is a national focal point, either of your own country or of another country that you may want to be in touch with, all our national focal points are on our website. As you will have noted from Richard's presentation, national focal points also have a duty with regard to consent forms. So it's a really important aspect of information that we would like to keep updated. So please just have a look at our website on national focal points to see that yours is indeed the one that you have appointed. And if there's an update, there's a model letter and some other information on how just simply to inform us of the update, and then we will reissue the credentials for that person. Let me also just say that in some cases, it may be that a party may want to use an additional contact officer in addition to the national focal point. And this is provided for both by the decision, but also by our online reporting system. So while the credentials go to the national focal point, he or she may become assisted by another person, and that person can be registered on the tool, on the online reporting tool, as the other contact officer. It is understood that the report at the end of all of that will still be submitted by the national focal point under her or his authority. But of course, since it is a rather lengthy set of questions with many aspects, it might be that your government would like to make use of that functionality. And with this, I think I'm scanning if there are any particular questions, but I would like to thank you for a whole lot of nice messages. We are very happy that you found this particular session helpful, and if you have any specific questions, or if there's something that's not clear or something you would like us to go into in a little bit more detail next week, please feel free just to send an email to the Minamata general email box, and we shall try to take that consideration, that idea into consideration as we're preparing our presentation for next time. But just for you to know, we've divided the session into 2 parts, and we will start with the first number of articles, which are more or less the control measures of the convention, and there are many multiple tiers in many of those questions, so they will take a bit of time to go through. And then we will go all the way up to artisanal small-scale gold mining, that is Article 7. And then on Thursday, we will start with emissions and releases, so that's Article 8 onwards, and we'll go all the way through to the last article that has a question attached to it, which is Article 19, and we will also shortly stop into parts C, D, and E just to further explain. So that's what's planned, and of course, if you need any help along the way over and above these sessions, Richard is there. Please reach out to him. If we would like to ask you to CC it to the general mailbox as well. Just that helps us keep a ticket on all the items that might have come in. And now I'm looking if there is any other question. One important thing is also just to say that the online reporting tool, as Anna mentioned, is going to be available in the different languages of the United Nations. So of course you can choose to report in the language that makes most sense to you. Yeah, but I think my colleagues and I are smiling that you found this to be very useful. Thank you very much. I realize I just I neglected to say that we are recording this session. I trust this is in agreement with you. I know it comes now late to say this, but this recording will be accessible to you at another time, or your colleagues if you need to pass on the information, and or anybody that couldn't attend today. And so that recording will be part of this little package of preparations on national reporting. So we will have this PowerPoint up. We will put up the links to the different guidances, and we will put up this recording. This is what we always do for all our different events. And maybe if I can just ask Lynn to put up the very last slides, I could give you an eye also into all the other Minamata Online events that are going to be happening over the next weeks, and in anticipation of meeting you all online for our first segment of the COP4. But here, please visit our Minamata Online Season 2 calendar. You will see in gold are a number of events on Mercury Science. Some have already taken place. If you've missed them, the recordings are available, as are the PowerPoints. Then there are a number of events in Mercury Silver. Those are the implementation review and support events, of which, of course, these national reports form a part. 4 of them are national reports. And then in red, which is a very important set of events, are the ones that are briefing type for the COP. And the first one that we had was last Wednesday, on the 1st of September, on Annexes A and B. But many more are upcoming. With that, I think I have used up all the time allotted and all of your attention. We would like to thank you. I see some very nice, thank you very much for your very generous comments. It is a pleasure to serve you as parties, and we look forward to stepping this journey with you to try to come as close as possible to the high reporting rate we had for the short reports. So with thanks also from my colleagues Richard, Anna, but also Shariful and Lynn in the background to keep everything ticking over. We hope you stay well, and we look forward to meeting you next week again. Bye-bye.